Alrighty, this is gonna be a bit of an interesting video to make here. Let's just say I'm not exactly used to coming out, so forgive me if I come off as a little too woke or something. Whatever, it's fine. Okay. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Good puppy. Okay, let's get started. So if you don't know who I am Gato Fanglo. I make a bunch of videos where I confess things about myself. For example, take a look at a few of the videos on screen. It's kind of weird, okay, I'm not gonna lie, but every single video I make is 100% true and real and all of this stuff, right? Well, my most recent video, I discussed my quote-unquote desire to be trans. Okay, some people misunderstood the point of that, but it's fine. I don't really care that much. And that video was meant to be a sequel slash follow-up to another video I made a little while back, maybe a few months ago, called I Wish I Was a Girl, Sorta. Now, that sorta does a lot of the heavy lifting, I know, holy crap. In both of those videos, I kind of just talk about the fact that I really don't like being a guy in a lot of ways, and how I wish I could be something else, or how I wish I could have the confidence to change things about myself, if that makes sense, okay? And look, from both those videos, I have gotten countless comments, pretty much all saying the exact same thing. Dude, you just gotta be trans. And, alright, look, you know what? I get it. I really do. I've read, literally so many of these comments, either calling me a girl, or an egg, or non-binary, or something like that. Basically anything else other than a cisgendered dude, okay? And, I've given it some thought. Okay, I've seen a lot of these comments and I've thought about it a little bit, If I were to talk to another person and they said something like, I want to be a female androgynous biomass, my first thought wouldn't be, oh, this guy's definitely a dude. It would probably be, this guy is very confused about his gender in at least some capacity, okay? Now look, I definitely didn't feel like a girl when I was making those videos, and looking back, that wasn't really what I was getting at, okay? One was about feeling generally uncomfortable with being a man, and the sequel was mainly about self-confidence and self-expression, okay? At no point was I thinking, yeah, I'm gonna upload this video to feel a little more validated, and then I'm gonna change my pronouns. Oh, no, that's not what I was thinking at all, okay? I was just gonna say how I felt, find people who were like, oh my gosh, me too, hashtag relatable, and then I'm gonna move on, feeling happy that I got these things off of my chest, okay? At no point was I considering changing my gender identity. Well, folks, how do I break the news to y'all? After careful and calculated consideration, I believe I have come to a careful and calculated conclusion, my friends. I don't know how to say this, so I'm just gonna say it. Mom, Dad, I'm now a he slash they. Sorry, I threw up a little bit there. In all seriousness, though, if we want to get technical, I would be what's called a demi boy, okay? Simply put, a demi boy, if you don't know what it is one who identifies as partially, but not completely, male. Technically fits under the umbrella term of non-binary, but it's kind of weird. It's part of you feels like a dude, and another part is either non-binary, agender, or a girl or something. And I guess it varies from person to person. And I guess for me in particular, I don't really know exactly how I feel about that second part. I just know it's not a dude, okay? To be entirely honest, I've known this about myself for an extremely long time. So I don't exactly want you guys to think that you're the ones who made me switch this up. I mean, you've probably pushed me in that direction, but I kind of already knew this for a while, okay? Before any of my videos about identity, I knew there was something off about my masculinity and the way I expressed said masculinity. Basically, what I mean by that is that I'm in no way, shape, or form what some would call a quote-unquote real man, okay? In a lot of ways, I've almost felt disconnected from masculinity completely, wanting to just do my own thing, but feeling forced to kind of conform to a particular stereotype. Believe it or not, it actually took me until I was in college when I had conversations with people about things like gender or transgenderism, if that's what you want to call it, to find out that not every single man, not even most men, experience this sort of weird feeling that they're just, not made to be men. They're not made for that life, man. And that feeling is kind of hard to describe. It feels very, very strange. And in my case, I just always felt like something was wrong with me, Like, why do I sometimes feel like I'm not like other guys? Why do I sometimes feel like I just don't want to be associated with guys, like, at all? You know what I mean? And that's not to say I'd rather be a girl per se, but I've always desired some sort of like midpoint between the two, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I feel like I'm a guy and I enjoy being a guy a lot of times, but sometimes I just feel different, okay? I've already made like a million different videos about exactly why I feel that way. I recommend going and watching a few of them. Now, I will admit, some of them are kind of weird at face value, but I can promise you that they're not really that strange if you actually watch them. But all of them kind of point to the same two things, which are freedom of self-expression and the desire for neutrality, okay? Now this leads me to the pronouns thing that I mentioned a little bit ago, okay? To be entirely honest, the decision to switch up happened pretty quickly. I was talking to a friend about how I pretty much just knew I was a demi boy, and I thought, why not give it a shot, right? I mean, if you think about it, there's really no harm in trying something like that out. It's very low stakes. If I don't like it, I can just go back to the way things were right before I made the switch, you know what I mean? I'm still going by he or whatever, so it's just one extra thing to tack on to the list, right? And you know what? So far, it's been about a week since the change, and I've honestly been liking it. I'm not even gonna lie. It makes me feel really good about myself, and it makes me feel really good to just open up about the fact that I'm not 100% a dude, and just accept the fact that I'm not a quote-unquote real man. And it's kind of nice to just own that and make it a part of myself, rather than something that I need to fix or something. You know what I mean? This is just an aspect of my identity, and I think it feels rather liberating to just say that, you know what I mean? That I don't need to conform. I shouldn't expect myself to conform. And it's nice, In addition, as weird as it feels to say, I kind of like the feeling that I get from being referred to by they, them. I can't quite place why I like it, but it just feels really nice. Now, on the other hand, it's definitely still something I'll have to get very used to because, I mean, to be frank, there are clearly some things that are definitely very strange about suddenly switching things up like this. In addition, the whole non-binary thing is definitely very, very weird to me. I've always kind of felt a sort of connection to it. Sure, maybe there's a relatability aspect to it, but at the same time, it's always been kind of hard to follow. I've always struggled with calling people by those pronouns or whatever, or just trying to use more gender neutral vocabulary for people. It's difficult, okay? I'm not gonna lie. And I really do try, but sometimes I just can't help myself, you know what I mean? It's like if I'm talking to someone who is very, let's say, masculine presenting, it's very hard for me to just look at them and call them a person every single time I see them. It's way more comfortable for me to just look at them and say, dude, or, hey, you're a man, or you're a guy at the very least, you know what I mean? Or even just listening to the sound of their voice. It's difficult, okay? I really do try, but it's hard. Okay? No disrespect or anything. And with me, the whole concept of being a demi boy, even though I know that's what I am, it's still such an uncomfortable word to say, man. Demi boy. I don't know, man. It just kind of reminds me of the thing that I used to cackle at back when I was a teenager in a cringe woke TikTok compilation or something. You know what I mean? Back in high school, ugh. Jeez, horrible memories. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. I suppose one could argue that demi boys are technically trans, and, maybe they are, okay, but it makes me feel so freaking weird calling myself that because it doesn't really feel like I've done anything too drastic to change anything about myself, you know what I mean? It feels like I'm stealing trans people's valor or something. I don't know, does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense at all, but I hope it makes sense. It makes me feel like a poser, a LARPer even, you know what I mean? And I guess it doesn't really matter what I call myself at the end of the day, whether I am trans or if I'm not. I guess it doesn't really change anything. Because after all, I'm really just doing this to try to feel a little bit more comfortable with myself and who I am or whatever. But still, it's kind of a weird feeling, switching up labels or something, It's not a phase bomb, it's who I am. You know what I mean? But, yeah. This is me, who I am. See me in full color. It's me like no other. Simply put, originality. Moral of the story, be yourself, okay? I'm not telling you to change your pronouns, Shay style or anything. That might be a little bit too much, but I am just saying, that you might want to consider just being who you are, whether you're confused about your identity or not, all right? Self-expression is literally an aspect of your identity and who you are, so you ought to show it to the world. You know what I mean? Make your old man proud, little champ. You know what I'm saying? And always remember, no harm, no foul. If you just want to experiment with something, whether it's something weird like your pronouns, or if it's just like, I don't know, trying out a new style or something else in fashion, that's not that bad, give it a shot. What is there to lose? What, a few people are gonna look at you funny? Who freaking cares, man? They can go stick it up they bumhole. You get me? Might be a bit vulgar, sorry. If you made it this far, I want to say that I have a Discord server now. The link is in the description. I'll be there. Also, take a look-see here. We got some Gato Finglo fan art. Seriously, dude, some of these artists are so freaking talented, and I love them so much. Oh my goodness gracious. If you want to draw fan art, come on into the Discord server and draw something, dude. I will be eternally grateful. Last but not least, I want to mention that I have a channel membership. It's $4.99 a month. Nothing too special. It's just if you feel like you want to support me, go for it. If not, don't. All right? No pressure. No pressure or anything, puppy. I would never force you to do anything if you didn't want to. My mistake. Anywho, though, yeah. Thank you very kindly for embarking on this little identity journey with me. I know this is kind of a weird video for me to be making because, let's just say, I'm not really used to admitting that I was in denial about something, but look, man, you heard it here first, folks, okay? You were right, okay? Ah, crap. Yeah, it hurts to say, man. You were right, okay? But yeah, it's whatever, okay? Without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!